Hello, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today we have the latest episode of Real Talk for Lightworkers where we're going to talk about losing your religion. Okay, so this video is not actually about losing your religion, all right? So I want to start by saying this I want you to take more as like a lecture, okay? And just an exploration and a conversation and a discourse on religion and how it can fit into our lives, how maybe it doesn't need to fit into our lives and all these things. But the biggest bottom line that I'm trying to say here is that this video is not about being against religion, nor is it about being for religion. I'm not really on any one side here. I am on the side of truth, and I am on the side of that which allows people to find happiness and fulfillment and contentment in their lives. So I am not here to tell you what to believe, what to do, what not to believe, what not to do, any of these things. My purpose is to expand on topics, to provide perspectives and tools that you can or cannot use to find peace in your own life. And so yeah, if you're looking to this video to be like a how to get rid of religion because religion is so horrible, you're probably going to be disappointed. And if you're looking for me to defend religion and say that religion is an awesome thing and we should all be religious in some way, you're probably going to be disappointed because I'm not going to really say either of these things. If you watched one of my older videos called Why Not All Truths Are True and Why Not All Truths Are True for You Right Now, I think you'll better understand the perspective that I'm coming from, okay? So the purpose of this video is, like I say, not to be for or against anything, not to promote or to denounce anything, but more, again, to look for truth and to look for that which creates more order, complexity, and structure in our lives. So before we get super into this, I want to talk about what do I mean by creating more order, structure, and complexity in our lives, because that can sound really Illuminati-ish or controlling or rigid, and we're going to get into this and how this plays into religion as we go along. But more or less what I'm talking about here is just that what we're looking at is that, again, right, life speaks in two languages. It speaks in the language of pleasure, and it speaks in the language of pain. The language of pleasure and the language of pain. And we also have to consider that we as individuals and we as a collective are evolving. We are not done by any means, nor are we primitive. We're constantly on the move. We're constantly changing. That the energy that we carry, whether you want to call that our soul or our spirit or just energy, calories, whatever you want to call it, that animates our beings is constantly in motion. Yeah, we're constantly changing. And even those people who look like they're not changing, you will see that people who are not growing, learning, expanding, and evolving are becoming less and less complex as they go along. Like, we can sort of start to think of our grandparents or maybe just people in our lives that have clamped down on a way of being and on a way of thinking and on a way of operating in the world, and we can be like, they never change. But if you really look at them, and if you really look at their behavior and you really look at their mindsets, you'll see that the amount of information that they're starting to reject and the things that they're hating and the things that they're saying are wrong and bad and the amount of experiences they're allowing themselves to have. So the information that they're taking in, first and foremost, is actually decreasing. You'll see their mindset and their ideology is making them more and more narrow focused in what is and is not okay. And the amount of experiences that they're allowing themselves to have is also completely decreasing. So they are changing. They're just becoming more and more concentrated, smaller and smaller and smaller, more and more contracted. And same thing for people who are learning, growing, evolving, and expanding. That change in those people tends to be more obvious because that learning, growing, changing, and expanding, like I say, we look for that. And so, but to say that anyone or anything is staying the same isn't true. So if we know that, yeah? That things are either becoming more complex or they're becoming more chaotic. This is the foundational understanding for everything we're going to talk about with religion today, okay? And that is this. We are either becoming more complex, which is leading to more creativity, okay? The reason this leads to more creativity is because the more complexity we have, the more variables we have to play with, the more creative we can be within what we are creating. Yes, so if you have 4 sticks, there's only so many shapes you can make with those 4 sticks. Yes? If you take away 1 stick, that diminishes the amount of shapes you can make. If you add 4 sticks and now you have 9, or 8, add 4 plus 4, and now you have 8, that massively increases the amount of shapes you can make. Yes? So our creativity, our way of expressing actually increases the more we understand the structure and nature of reality. So the more we come into complexity, the more we come into structure, the more we come into order, organization. So not order in the sense of a tight, rigid structure, but more a pattern, right? I want you to think of order more like pattern. Patterns create beauty. Yes? It is because of pattern that we can create beautiful things. So the more order, complexity, and structure we have is really saying the more we are aligning with life and the structure and the nature of reality, the more creative capacity we have to create pleasure. And that which is in alignment with life, but our creative iteration on it. So we're going to talk about that as we get on, but this is the foundational understanding. We're wanting to always be moving from lower order, more chaos, to higher order, higher structure, higher complexity, which is more creativity, less chaos. We got to think of it that way, okay? So it's the same thing as when we talk about love versus fear. A lot of people out there, when they're talking about religion and they're talking about these things, they say, that's a fear-based way of thinking. And I would agree with that for the most part. However, I want to express what I mean by fear. Yes? And if you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know what I'm going to say here. Fear is simply lack of understanding, lack of information, more chaos where there could be more order. Okay? So when we say someone is in a state of fear, their understanding is in a state of fear, religion is based in fear. What we're saying is they have some information, some truth, a little bit of order, but not enough to bring order to chaos. This is what we're really going for here, okay? So in life, when we move from pain to pleasure, true pain to true pleasure, what we have really done is taken what was chaotic and brought it into higher order. Okay? Going from pain to pleasure is moving that which is in a state of chaos into a state of higher order. This does not mean we have moved it from order to complete, or from chaos to complete order, perfect structure. Not at all, because we're evolving, we're constantly changing. We have simply brought it up from the level of order or structure that it had, which may be very, very low and therefore quite chaotic, to a higher level. Anytime we move from lower to higher order, lower, more chaos, to higher order, higher structure, more complexity, we create pleasure, because this is life. This is life evolving. That is what life is. Life learns, grows, changes, and evolves. Therefore, it takes in more information, goes from being something that is less structured, less ordered, more chaotic, to more structured, more ordered, less chaotic, therefore more creative. Yes? Okay. So that's that. So now when we look at religion, yes, we can see that for the most part, humanity came to religion looking for answers to suffering. Okay? So I am no religious scholar. I have not studied the roots and the etymologies and all these things of every religion. However, again, that's why I'm saying this is a discourse of what I've observed in my own self and sort of in the context of the society that I live in and what religion has to do with this and becoming more ordered and less chaotic. All right? So, yes, right? We're looking to evolve, become more ordered, structured, and complex. This is why, okay? This is really why. We're not rejecting religion, nor are we accepting it as the be-all, end-all. We're saying everything in reality is a piece of reality. Everything is a piece of truth. There is nothing that is completely outside of the truth. However, we have a lot of pieces of the truth being mistaken for the whole truth. And therefore, it is too little information. It's not evolving, getting more information. It's a piece of the puzzle being said that it is the whole puzzle, and that is what creates a decline, a chaoticness. Yes? It's a blocking of information because it is information that creates more order, complexity, and structure, and therefore more pleasure. And it is the decrease in information, the getting rid of pieces of the puzzle, the trying to figure out what is right, what is wrong, what is left, what is right, what is up, what is down. Yes, all of this, that creates that devolution that we were talking about, right? That person who seems like they're never changing, but they're just getting more and more stuck. It's because they're decreasing the information they know. They're actually becoming dumber, less intelligent. People who are evolving are becoming more intelligent, taking more pieces of the puzzle, taking in more information, and seeing how all of those pieces fit together. So if you're watching these videos, you are not someone who is looking for the right answer. We're evolving past that. We are looking for where is the piece of the puzzle that religion holds, that government holds, that any of these structures that exist hold, and how can we bring it into higher order, higher complexity, so that it is more in alignment with life generation. Yes? That's what we're looking at. So we're not looking to religion to denounce it or to own it wholly. We're looking at it as a piece of the puzzle that has been taken way out of context in a lot of places, and we want to bring it into context, bring it ourselves into higher order and structure, not because, again, there is truth in religion. There is truth in everything. However, again, if we mistake it for the whole truth, we miss it. If we completely get rid of it, we miss it. We have to look at it in context. So religion, just like everything else, needs to be looked at in context. Okay? So if we go back and we look at the roots of any religion, Shintoism, Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, you'll look and you'll see people were suffering, and we were looking to find an answer to get out of suffering. So right there, yes, right there, that is a truth. That is a fundamental truth of the human nature. We understand that pain equals death, pleasure equals life. We want more pleasure, we want less pain. Because we are life, and life wants to live. This is the bottom line. We are all life, and all of life wants to live. And we understand intuitively, everyone has this. We seek pleasure and want to run from pain because we know on some level that pain is a call of death. Pain means there is devolution happening. Pain means we have become antagonistic to life. Whereas pleasure, true pleasure, and we're going to talk about this as we go along, true pleasure always leads to more order, structure, creativity, and life generation, life going on. More information, more context, putting more of the pieces together, being able to continue to create within that and evolve. So keep on living. Yes? This is where religion gets its roots. We are looking for the structure that's going to allow us to move out. We're looking to move out of pain. Yes? Then the second thing that we look for is the rules and the structure. So this, again, is where religion and the roots of religion got it right. Okay? The precepts of the Buddha, the nature worship in Shintoism, the lifestyle and the disciplines of Zen Buddhism and Zen in general and Buddhism in general, the the Ten Commandments and the rules and the laws of the Islamic faiths all have their roots again in looking for a structure. There must be some sort of pattern here that is going to take us out of pain and into pleasure. Now, so this is what we need to understand, okay? The seeds of truth in religion. There is a way out of pain and into pleasure. The way out of pain and into pleasure is through some sort of structure, some sort of rule, some sort of code of living that's going to get us out of pain and into pleasure. These are seated in truth. Okay, this is true. This is how reality works. However, right, where religion and all these things got taken out of context was in the sort of human understanding of it, and we're going to get into that as we go along, okay? So because most people, and for a very long time in human history, most people have a pretty low level of consciousness. And what I mean by low level of consciousness is simply a low level of understanding how the reality works, how to work within that reality so as to become a powerful creator with reality and not to be antagonizing life. And we're going to get into this later, and I know I keep saying that, but there's deep antagonism to life in most human beings. And we are perceiving that antagonism to life as though life is antagonizing us, okay? So we're seeing the suffering. We're thinking something's going wrong and something needs to be rectified. And religion, in a lot of ways, okay, now and throughout all of history, okay, we've had the majority of people in their low level of consciousness being unhappy in their pain, wanting pleasure, not knowing how to do it, looking for a savior, looking for some answers, but not knowing how to find the answers. And then we've had what are called the mystics all throughout human history. Every religion is founded on the insights of someone who was having a mystical experience. And so this is where we start to, again, find these seeds of truth that are being thrown out of context. So when we look at the founders of all the ancient religions, they were essentially mystical beings having a mystical experience. And now, what do I mean by mystical beings having a mystical experience? They were tuning into, tapping into, having a deeper understanding of universal truth. And they were applying it to their relative truth. So where most people were simply having a low consciousness life, meaning the only thing that's happening is my relative perspective, my relative pain, my relative seeking of pleasure. But there doesn't seem to be any connection between myself and the reality and myself, others and myself and others. It's all just about my little experience, my pain, my pleasure, and how do I create more pleasure for myself and less pain for myself. We're seeing that is what low consciousness is. That low consciousness is simply saying, it's just me, it's my relative experience, there is no universal thing, I just want to get out of pain and I don't know how. The mystic was having their relative experience of pain. So we know the Buddha, Jesus, all the ancient thinkers and founders of religion, and even the mystics within the religions that were already founded, the Christian mystics, the Buddhist mystics, the Shinto mystics, anybody who was having a mystical experience was essentially tuning into and tapping into a universal perspective. They were starting to see beyond their relative experience was a universal experience. The patterns of life itself that affected the relative experience. They were starting to see that there was a connection between themselves and the reality, themselves and other people, and that there was a basic structure to how these things functioned, that if we obeyed the laws, which is really another way of saying lived within the structure of that which is reality, we were then fed life. This is essentially what they were saying and what they were feeling. The commandments, the rules, the laws, these were all based around, in the beginning, how reality works and how we can work within it to create more order, structure, and complexity in our own lives so as to be in alignment with life. So this is the bottom line here, okay? The more in alignment with the structure of life we are, the more pleasure is going to be created. So we need to understand this. When we as people are in pain, it is not life opposing you. It's never life opposing you. Life does not oppose life. We, as individuals with conscious awareness, have the capacity to choose whether to align ourselves with the structure of reality and therefore for us to go with reality, to go with life, and therefore experience all of the connection to life generation that gives us, or to oppose life in ourselves, to cut ourselves off from life, cut ourselves off from information, cut ourselves off from that structure that dictates everything, and therefore to harm ourselves, to oppose life in ourselves. So this is what we need to understand. All pain is showing us where we are in opposition to life. It is never where life is in opposition to us. Life has its structure, and it has to have a structure. If life did not have a structure, there would be no us. There would be no you. You could not exist in an environment that had no structure, because if there was no structure, there would be nothing to you. There would be nothing to create. There would be nothing not to create. There would be nothing. No structure equals nothing. So we have to understand, in order to have a life experience, in order for life to be life, there has to be a pattern. There has to be a structure. There has to be a fundamental way in which it works. And this is what the mystics of all religion were tapping into. They were seeing, oh, there's a way this works. There's a way nature works. I'm a part of nature. I'm a relative part of nature. I'm an ultimate part of nature. And they were seeing this unification between the universal perspective, the universal laws of how the reality functions, and fitting the relative experience into that to have the highest expression of that relative experience. So seeing how the laws of nature function, aligning yourself with that, seeing how much that energizes you, how much that gives you more and more understanding of how reality works, and therefore gives you more and more capacity to create what you want to create within it. So for instance, right, it's the understanding how the flow of electricity works and harnessing that to create a light bulb, right? That was Thomas Edison's creative iteration on a universal truth. The Wright brothers, I think, or whoever invented the airplane, I might have that wrong, who understood gravity, understood aerodynamics, these basic laws and structures of how the earth functions, and then created an airplane. That was their creative iteration on the laws, their relative desire for flight, taking the laws of reality into account, saying, okay, this is the structure, this is what's required for flight to take place, because there's a structure. Now, how do we invent something so that humans can do that? The airplane. You see what I'm saying here? So each mystic was essentially sharing with us the same truth. So this is why when we look at all religions and we look at the words of Jesus, the words of Buddha, the words of Muhammad, but we can all boil them all down to essentially saying the same thing. Why? Well, because they're all seated in the same thing. They're all seated in reality. They're all seated in the structure and nature of how reality functions. Now, where they were different was the context of the person saying it. Yeah? Buddha said things different than how Jesus said things, different than how Muhammad said things, different than how I'm ignorant to the Indian, the Hindu masters, everyone said things slightly differently because they were fitting it into the context of themselves, their culture, the time, the place, the era. All these metaphors from Jesus and from the Indian texts and from, so the Bhagavad Gita, from the Bible, from the Quran, all these metaphors were contextual and they meant something to the people of the time. It was essentially trying to explain, here's how the reality works in a metaphor for the people of the time. Now, why did they have to use metaphor? Why did they have to use parable? Why did they have to not just say what it was? Here's the reason, okay? And here's where, again, religion has gotten out of context. Because, again, most people were having such a low level of consciousness, and this is still reality today. Most people are having such a low level of consciousness, meaning my experience is the only one that exists. What I want is what should happen, and if anything doesn't go that way, life is opposing me, and what the fuck? And how do I get, how do I make it so that I'm less pain, more pleasure? But here are my rules for how that should happen, and the world is just not going how I think it should. This is really the story of humanity. Yes? So because of this illusion, and this is what I really believe the word illusion or delusion leads to. It's essentially saying, I don't understand how reality works, but I'm going to believe that how I think it works and how I think it should work is correct, and I'm going to continue to oppose anything that shows me differently than that as a way of trying to get to pleasure. Okay, so this is how we've gotten all confused. We have the capacity to fool ourselves into thinking we are moving in a direction of pleasure when we are truly moving in a direction of pain, and that we are moving in a direction of pain when we are truly moving in a direction of pleasure. Okay? So because we have such low consciousness, meaning such low awareness of how things work, how we work, the structure of reality, and how we can be creative and life-generating within that, because we have such low awareness of all of these things, most of us are in deep states of pain. Now, because we're in these deep states of pain and because everything changes, yes, when we're in a fear state, when we're in a pain state, when we're in a rejection of information state, which is all saying the same thing, be very clear on that. Pain, fear, rejection of information, all the same thing. We are devolving. We are becoming less ordered, less structured, less complex, less intelligent. Okay, so think of it that way. Less information, less intelligent. This is not a judgment. This is a discernment. When we are rejecting information, we are becoming less intelligent. That is something we can say. When we are just experiencing deeper and deeper and deeper senses of pain, we can understand that that has to be happening because we don't understand how reality works, we don't have the information to align ourselves with it, and therefore we are becoming more chaotic, more death, less and less life, more and more death, more and more pain, till eventually, literally, the life that animates your body has to exit the cells. There's so much death, so little information, a point of no return where we can't get back into life generation. And so life leaves the body. It liberates itself, the energy leaves and goes into something else that is going to be life generating, or give it a try, right? So as we become fearful, we tend to become more and more and more fearful because the one constant of life is change, meaning you're not going to stay at your level of misunderstanding and just hang out there. You're usually going to descend into deeper and deeper and deeper levels of misunderstanding, less and less information, less and less context, less and less pieces of the puzzle, less and less being able to put those pieces of the puzzle together. So as we are in pain, it's easy to continue down that pain cycle and get to this point where literally we can't even understand what true pleasure and true pain is anymore. So we become so low in our intelligence that we mistake that which is killing us, that which is painful, for being pleasure, and that which is helping us to live as being pain. So this is where we see people who eat junk food and drink alcohol and do these things that are clearly detrimental to the body and consider that a pleasureful thing. It's not pleasure. what they're actually experiencing is resonance, okay? That alcohol and that food that's killing you feels good in the moment because it's resonant with the current path that you're on, which is a path of death and destruction. So we have to kind of think of this way. So when people are talking about your vibration, it's a match to your vibration. It's not mystical. It's literally your vibration is the choice you're making to either be growing, learning, evolving, and expanding, or becoming less and less aware, less and less ordered, less and less structured, more chaotic, and careening towards death. Those are the two choices we have. That is what determines your vibration. How much of you is on the life path and how much of you is on the death path. So most of us are mostly on the death path. We're mostly involved in things that are killing us. Because again, we've talked about this, that the structure of the consensus reality that we all live in is essentially all chaos and death. It's all moving into lower and lower levels of intelligence, lower and lower levels of complexity, and descending into chaos constantly. More and more fear, less and less information, more segregation, less unification, and this is what kills us. So we literally become so low in our intelligence that we consider drugs and alcohol and risky sex and junk food pleasure because it gives us a hit in the moment of resonance with the path we're on. Yes, it's vibrationally a match to where we're going and what we're doing. So it feels good in the moment. It's continuing us down our path. It feels good to keep doing what we're doing for a moment. But then there's always the backlash. Yes, there's the hangover, the sickness, the disease, the horrible relationships. There's all this pain that comes with it. So we're seeing that it's not true pleasure because it creates pain later. And therefore it is more chaotic. It is death. Okay? So we are getting to this place where people are not being able to correlate their pain with chaos, their pain with death, and they're not even being able to see that which is causing them pain. And then on the flip side, giving up these foods, going into rehab, starting a meditation practice, getting in touch with your emotions, that all feels painful in the beginning. And we think this is pain, I'm suffering because of this. But really, again, it's just because it's discordant, right? These are now life-generating things. We're turning the ship around. We're going from heading in a direction of death to heading in a direction of life. And that discord is what we're calling pain. But truly, this is not pain because it leads to more order, more structure, more complexity, more understanding, higher levels of intelligence, more information, more awareness. And this leads to higher levels of responsibility, being able to take responsibility for ourselves, to understand how the reality works, and therefore to go with it, and then go on a life cycle. So this is why in the beginning, when we're thinking that which is pleasureful that causes pain later is pleasure, and that which seems painful in the moment but causes pleasure later, we're seeing these things just at their base. This is pain, this is pleasure. This is why we understand they needed to speak in parable. Because we're literally so confused. You can't walk up to a normal person right now and say, you're in pain, and have them say, yeah, I'm in pain, and be like, okay, this thing that you're going to do that's different, that's going to help get you out of the pain, is good. And they're like, yes, it is. They're like, no, it isn't. That hurts more. Right? Make me give up my cigarettes and tell me to meditate every day and feel my emotions. That feels way worse than smoking and just yelling at my wife. Yeah? So this is why we're saying we're at such a low level of consciousness. We can't just say things. The mystics could not just say how reality was because people were too low in their intelligence to understand. So they said it in a parable that made sense for the time and the place that they were in, for the people they were speaking to, and that's how they got it across. So these are the true roots of mystical true religion. When we look at religion for where the truth is, it's in all the mystics that were simply describing reality and how to align yourself with it. Where it all fell off, where the rails fell off, was in this. I'm going to tell this story, okay? The reason my parents got into religion, and this is not to say anything mean or judgmental about my parents, because this, again, at their state of consciousness where they were at when I was born, this was an evolution. It just wasn't the end for them. But like, where they were at was like, holy shit, we just had a baby, me. We need someone to help us understand how to raise this kid. We don't know what to do. What if we fuck it up? We don't have order, structure, complexity. Like in our own lives, we're kind of bumbling along, just making it up. But now we have this kid that we're responsible for, and we need someone to tell us how to do it. This is where we get a little bit messed up in religion if we stay in this place. So this, again, this is how most people get to religion. Is there's some pain in their life, there's some chaos in their life, there's something they don't understand, and they're looking to religion to give them the answer. And then where religion got all messed up, right, is when people who were also in a fear state, because this is the thing, victims and victors are equally fearful. We need to understand this. People who are looking to someone to save them, and the people who are looking to essentially profit off of, or and you know, this can be done in like a myriad of ways. This can be like the most seemingly benevolent looking motivation to the most diabolical motivation. But right, so literally anyone looking, so there's the people looking for saving, and there's the people who are saying, I will save you. Okay? And again, this can be like the most genuine, loving thing, like what I had, which was just, yeah, I see the world is suffering and I want to save everyone, to, okay, I see that the world is suffering, and that leads them to put me in a position of power, and I can exploit that, again, for my own profit, for my own gain, to get myself out of my pain. Is both people using the victor-victim mentality to try to get themselves out of pain. The victim is saying, you're going to save me and take me out of my pain. The victor is saying, I'm going to save you, and by doing so, what the love and the money and the sex or whatever it is that I'm going to get from you, by doing that, is going to save me from my pain. Yeah? So this is where religion got all messed up, is that we stayed in this low level of consciousness, which says, I can't figure out why I'm in pain. I don't know why this pain is happening. I don't know why I'm suffering. And I don't want to have to figure it out. You just tell me the rules. And the people at the top saying, cool, we'll tell you the rules, but you're going to have to pay us. And you're going to have to obey us. And we're going to dictate for you all of these things. And this whole hierarchy is going to happen. And that's where it all got totally messed up. Okay? So this is where religion and the context of religion is in a low state, a fear-based state. Yes? That there are some people that hold this knowledge, some people that have the answers that are not available to others. And so like in my growing up in the Christian church, there was a lot of this idea of just let go and let God. Yeah? Just surrender to God and he'll figure it out. And it really looked to me, and now I see it as that was true, that everyone in my church was just overgrown children. Yes? That it really felt quite childish. So not childlike, the divine child, childish in the immature sense. That we're using religion as a mommy and daddy replacement. And this is where it goes totally weird, okay? Is that when we're looking to something outside of ourselves to give us the answer within the context of not wanting to have to figure out the answer for ourselves, not wanting to have to take responsibility for ourselves, but just wanting someone to give us the rules or give us the thing or give us the thing to say or give us the thing to be so that the pain will stop. But I don't have to understand why the pain was happening or how to rectify it in my own way. I'm looking for someone else to rectify the pain for me, either through rules or me obeying the thing or whatever, but I'm not developing an understanding inside myself of why I'm in pain so that I can move past it. And in a lot of religions now, it's even to say they don't want that's heretical. To think that you could understand something, to think that you could figure something out for yourself, to think that you have the power to change something in your own life, to be responsible for your own life path, that is like now heretical. And this is where we have to look at religion as saying, okay, that's not what we want to take from it. Yeah? That's not the direction we want to go. That's where too little information, too little context, we need to evolve past this. So we need to be like the mystics, not the followers of religion and not the leaders of religion. We want to become the mystics who understand that what religion has to offer is simply there is a reality. There is a structure to how this reality works, and if I align myself with that structure, if I put myself in a place where I'm going with life, I'm understanding, if I'm in pain, it is because I am being antagonistic to how life works, and I need to bring myself into higher order complexity and structure, higher levels of creativity, higher levels of intelligence and understanding. Not intelligence in the book learning sense, but intelligence in true intelligence. True intelligence, not virtual reality intelligence, not some man-made thing that fits into another man-made thing, that fits into another man-made thing, that is so far removed from how reality actually works that it doesn't mean anything. In saying that there is information that actually means something. And that is the information that says, how do I bring myself into higher orders of complexity and structure, understanding how the reality works? Why am I in pain? What am I doing to oppose life that's causing this pain? And how do I rectify that so that I can be in a state of pleasure? This is what the mystics were teaching. This is where the truth in all religion lies, and this is where the context of how we conceive that religion was a seed of truth is. And this is where we can start to look in ourselves and say, okay, number one, am I going to religion looking for a mommy or a daddy? Do I just want to be able to pray and have God take it away? Do I just want to believe in heaven after this life if I just do things right, even though I'm suffering this whole time, right? Religion has gotten into this weird place where we've just accepted suffering as just being a part of life, and that getting out of suffering requires death. And if we can start to understand that that is like the most backwards understanding of how reality works, we're going to be good. Okay? Death is not the ending of suffering. Death is the end result of suffering. Yeah? Death is not the end of suffering. Death is the end result of continuing to suffer. Because the truth is, life stays with anything that is going with life, that is moving in a direction of higher order complexity evolution. Yes? And that in the human vessel feels like pleasure, true pleasure, as in actually feeling the pleasure that does not have a negative consequence later. I'm eating this food and it feels really good and tastes really good right now, and it makes me feel better later, and it contributes to my body becoming healthier. That's true pleasure. Where you can understand this thing that's life generating is the thing I actually want to do. I'm intelligent enough that I no longer have these lower impulses towards these death cycle things, right? More and more. So not all at once, not getting to this place overnight where all of the things that you know are harming you, you all of a sudden become aware of and then change everything overnight. No, it's going to be little thing at a time. Where is your pain that you're aware of right now? Yes? What are you doing to cause that pain? And then why are you doing that? And in my next video, I'm going to talk a little bit about this. I mean, we've talked so much about this, why we self-sabotage. It's literally because there are just parts of yourself that don't understand how reality works, and the little bits of fake pleasure we're getting in whatever we're in right now feels too scary to let go of. We're afraid to grow, change, evolve, because we're not intelligent enough to see that changing, growing, evolving, and expanding is going to create more true pleasure. We really, all we see is that we're going to lose this fake pleasure that we have right now. That's why we don't want to evolve. That's why we self-sabotage. That's why we do all of these things. We have a part of ourselves that does not see beyond the little bit of pleasure that we're getting right now out of this thing. Yes? And if we let this go or evolve this, that it's going to be way more pleasure. My metaphor for this is that most people have their little cupcake, and their death path is their cupcake, right? So their junk food in their crazy life, so they have their crazy job, their crazy relationship, all these other areas where they're in pain, they're not listening to their emotions, they're doing it, and they get to eat cake at the end of the day. And I'm saying, okay, take the cake away. And you're like, of course I'm not going to take the cake away. Don't take this cupcake away from me. This is the one thing of pleasure I have. Even though it's killing me, the truth is, This cupcake is killing me. It's poisonous, right? It's the poison cupcake. It's the one thing I have. And if you take this from me, I can't see anything else. So again, right, this low level of consciousness, why they had to speak in parables? Because all people were seeing was their little hits of alignment with death, pleasure that they were experiencing. And saying, if you give that up, there is life, right? Jesus said it over and over again. You have to give up the world to gain heaven. He did not mean that metaphorically. As in, yeah, he didn't mean that metaphorically. He didn't mean that in a way of like, we give up life on earth for this afterlife. He said, he meant, we give up the fake pleasure. We give up the thing that's killing us in order to align with true life, which is available here on earth, in this body, in this way that you are. We let go of that cupcake for the whole forest of fruit and abundance. This is what we're saying. But it's literally like people, all they can see is their little cupcake. They can't see the forest. They can't see the jungle of just abundance of natural food that's available for the rest of your life. You don't have to do frickin' anything. All they see is that I'm going to have to give up my cupcake. And so when we're looking to religion to be our mommy or our daddy, what we're saying is, just give me a cupcake. Just give me the cupcake so I don't have to figure out how to get to the jungle. And we're afraid of letting go of our little momentary hits of stimulation, which is what I would call them, not pleasure. We're our momentary hits of stimulation that feel like alignment with our death. And we're not willing to let that go because we don't see the life on the other side. Yes? And again, the other side is not on the other side of death. It's on the other side of consciousness awakening, consciousness expanding, seeing how life actually functions and aligning yourself with it. So suffering is what leads to death. We don't want to keep suffering. We want to figure out why we're suffering, where we are opposing life, and come into alignment with life. And you will see you become healthier, stronger, fitter, more creative, more expansive, more abundant. All of these things will happen to you. But there's going to be this time where you're shifting from the old belief systems, the alignment with death, to the alignment with life, where everything is chaotic and crazy. And that's why most people never become a mystic, never understand reality, never transcend their pain. Because in order to go from the stimulation and the numbing that we are all calling pleasure to true life generation, we must pass through pain. Because how it goes is life generation, opposing life, doing things that are out of alignment with life, pain as the messenger that we've done that, and then instead of us going, oh, backwards, right? Pain meaning, oh, I've done something out of alignment, let's go backwards to life generation. We're at pain because most of us have come in to a system that teaches us only out of alignment with life. We're born into pain. So we've never seen pleasure. We've never seen true pleasure. So this is why people can say this. I get it. We've never seen true pleasure. And so all we have is numbing and stimulation. We are being told that the numbing and the stimulation is pleasure, but it's killing us. And we're afraid of the pain for, right, fear, less information. We know the pain is wrong and bad. We shouldn't be in pain. But we're not understanding that it's by understanding why we're in pain, where we are out of alignment with life, that can lead us into being in alignment with life, that pleasure truly exists. We're just saying, I don't want to be in pain. Pain is wrong. Pain is bad. So I'm going to keep doing this numbing and stimulating thing because that's all I know. So we want to become like the mystic who says, my pain may not be my fault. I was born into a system of pain. I was born physically into a system of pain, mentally into a system of pain, emotionally into a system of pain, spiritually into a system of pain. I was born into a reality that is completely antagonistic to life. If I look to religion for my answer, I'm looking at it through the eyes of the mystic. What were the mystics saying about reality and how to align with it? I'm not going to look at reality through the lens of the victim or the victor. The I'm going to save you versus the I need to be saved, because that is not reality. We need to save ourselves. This is what this is. We need to understand that the victim and the victor lie within both of us. And we need to unite these two parts of ourselves. So again, this is all about unity consciousness. So number one, religion isn't wrong. It's seated in truth. In unity consciousness, we can see the truth in everything. In unity consciousness, we can understand that the projection of the victim and the projection of the victor are the two aspects of ourselves that we haven't quite put together yet, right? The part of ourselves that doesn't understand, that wants to be saved, and the part of ourselves that can understand and does want to do it and wants to save, needing to be united within. Stop projecting them without. Stop looking for someone to save you. Stop looking to save others. It's not going to happen. We need to unify within ourselves. We are a unity consciousness having a relative experience. The only person you have control over is you. You must unite your consciousness. So then, that victim inside of you is also the self-sabotager, the self-sabotaging behaviors, the not understanding, the fear, the lack of information, the part of you that wants to just stay the same. That part of you needs to be addressed. The inner childishness that's looking for someone to rescue you, that's looking for the answers outside of you, that doesn't want to have to understand and just wants to be saved, that wants to keep doing what you're doing because you can't see any other option. That part needs to be loved by the victor. The part of you that sees something higher, that has a vision, that knows there's more, that can hear what the mystics are saying and see that there is some structure to this reality. And so we need to, again, evolve past this fear that structure means rigidity. Most of us have rejected religion because it was too structured. Too many rules, too much this, right, wrong, good, bad, blah. And we know that that needs to be evolved. So where we evolve that is by saying there is a structure. We're not saying no rules, no reality, right? This is kind of where the you don't exist people and the New Age religion is trying to go, that there's just like no structure. There's no reality. Everything's just in my mind. Fuck that. No, that's not how it works. There's a structure. Because if it was really on your mind, frickin' levitate. You can't. No. Change your skin color. You can't. There's a structure. Okay? We need to be mature. And we need to say, the rules and the structure are there for our good. If we understand how the rules and the structure works, it actually creates more freedom for us. We have to stop being childish, saying rules and structure equal less freedom. And if the rules and structures that you're following equal less freedom, those are not universal laws. That's a man-made law, that's a virtual reality. It has nothing to do with anything. We need to start to understand the actual laws, the actual structure of reality. So we evolve ourselves. How does reality actually work? I'm transcending right and wrong. I'm transcending good and bad. I'm transcending being rewarded or punished. And I'm seeing pain simply means I'm out of alignment with life. It's not a punishment. I didn't do something wrong because I'm bad. It's simply I was born into a system that's totally out of alignment with life. And I now have to clean up the messes of my forefathers. Absolutely. That's what we're all doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm saying I didn't choose to step into a body that was all messed up. I didn't create this mess in my body. I didn't create the mess in the world. I didn't create essentially my own anxieties and neuroses and all these things that I grew up with. That was all handed to me. Now, what am I going to do with it? This is where we take the religious mindset and use it as an adult. The religious mindset says there is an answer. There is a way out of pain. There is a way out of suffering. There is a structure and a form for how this reality works. And if you align yourself with it, you will be on an ever-evolving journey of life. New life, life anew, heaven, nirvana, bliss, whatever you want to call it. You will constantly be evolving and changing and growing and learning, becoming more and more and more and more and more complex, more and more and more creative within the structure of reality. That's all correct. Yes? And so we take that and we say, okay, all the mess in my life may not be my fault. But as an adult now, I'm no longer a child, but there is that inner child in me that needs that adult love. I am going to order myself. I am going to study how the reality functions. I'm going to let go of this childish idea of good and bad, right and wrong, being punished and being rewarded. And I'm just going to say, no, I am one with life. I am an adult. I am an adult who is one with life. And I am going to choose to see where I am opposing life. And I inherited it. That's fine. So where is my pain? I'm going to stop with the stimulation and the numbing. And I'm going to go into my pain. I'm going to see where that pain is showing me, oh, this is not right. This is not right. This is not right. This is harmful. This is harmful. This is harmful. This is causing harm. All of these places I'm causing myself harm and others harm are where I'm dying, because we are a unified one. Every place where you are causing harm is where you are killing yourself. And so the more you start to recognize those areas where you are causing harm, and again, being on the self-love path, you're mature enough not to blame yourself for that. You're going to say, okay, there you go. That's why I'm in pain. I need to change. And then we love that inner child, the self-sabotage, the whatever you want to call it, the person that's, the part of you that's afraid to change because you can't see the forest. All you see is the cupcake. You love that part of yourself. You nurture that part of yourself. You say, I hear you, I know you're just trying to keep me safe, right? You don't want me to change because this is predictable. Not because this is life-generating, but this is comfortable and predictable and numb, and I get those little hits of alignment pleasure. But if I'm going to go into true pleasure, we're going to have to let this cupcake go. And I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to move towards the forest. Even if I can't even see it, I'm going to let the old thing go and see what happens. This is how we evolve. So we take what the mystics taught. We seek what the mystics sought, which is reality, which is everlasting life through alignment with life, which is seeing where you are opposing life, either through your own choices or through what you inherited, and you start to rectify that. And this process takes time. And this is why we do the Emotional Mastery series. This is why we do the Transformation series. This is why I have made every bit of content that I've ever made. It's all about how to process where we are out of alignment with life and how to move into alignment with life. Because this is like the thing. We got to think of ourselves like fish in water. We were born into it. We are not even aware that the water is there, right? That story, that the two fish swimming, and the one fish says, hey, the water's nice today. And the other fish says, what's water? Because he's been in water his whole life. He has no context for anything outside of water. So what's water? This is what we need to understand. Our death cycle, the pain, the being born into a world of pain and suffering is our water. Most of us don't even see it as being something wrong. We just think that's how life is, or I'll just die and go to, if I'm just a good enough person who's saved enough people or done whatever my religion told me is what is right and good. The victor part, not the mystics, the misunderstood mystics. Right? So the misunderstood the victors and victims are taking what the mystics knew and putting it through a lens of lower intelligence. Yes? The laws and the this is right and this is wrong, good and bad, blah, blah, blah. If it's not actually creating a benefit in your life, if it's not leading to more order, complexity, structure in your life, then it's not really a rule. That's a false reality. Because if it truly were a real rule, it would be creating more complexity in your life, more complexity in everyone else's life. More structure, more creativity, more order, more awesomeness, more life. Yes? So we start to see where those things are happening, where the chaos in our lives is, where the pain in our life is, how we inherited that. Whoa, everyone else is doing this. And then we start to say, could there be another way? Could there be another way? Could I process? Could I love myself enough? Right? So again, how this all ties in, to take in more information than what I've been taking in. When we love ourselves, this is what we're really doing. We're taking down our defense from that internal self, because it's the internal self that is the receptor for all of the information. So the more you reject yourself, the more you're cutting off your receptor from life itself. So you can't align with it. You can't understand it. You can't grow. When you love who you are, it is one and the same thing, because you are reality and reality is you. As you love yourself, you are actually taking in more information, right? Because if fear is lack of information, love is more information. You take in more information, you can then order yourself. You can understand how the structure works, and you become more in alignment with it. That's how I got to where I am and continuing to go. And this is the point of this. So where is your pain? Go into that pain. Love that pain. Love equals more information. Get the information from that pain. Understand it's not you that's wrong and bad that you're in pain. It's the structure. Get in alignment with the structure. Life is never opposing you. You are always the one opposing life. You've been taught to do that. Now we have to clean up the mess. Seek what the mystics sought. Don't seek a mystic. Okay? Reality, life. How do I align with it? This is the point of religion. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below, like, share, subscribe, and I might do another video on this in the future, but we'll see, okay?